Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Socially Desi Show, the podcast that motivates you to live, create, and inspire. If this is your first time here, welcome. On our show, we discuss tips and strategies with our guest speakers on how to tackle problems related to personal growth, mental health, relationships, business and entrepreneurship, and health and fitness. So hit that subscribe button and go check out our website at sociallydesi.com for more of such content. Today, I'm joined by David Menkin. He's an actor and the voice of Breach from our favorite FPS game, Valorant. Hello, David. Welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to be here.
Same here. It's a pleasure to be hosting you on the show today, David. So, how is it going in London?
Well, it's very quiet at the moment. We are very, very much shut down due to a little virus. But thankfully, people like me, I'm sitting in my little studio booth now talking to you, so I get to work from here. But when you look out the window, there's nothing going on.
It's completely locked down, right?
Yeah,
The whole place.
yeah. Unfortunately, we can go and buy food and we can go and exercise, and that's about it.
All right, all right. So, David, let's quickly jump into the episode. And why don't you tell us about your professional journey so far?
Yeah, well, so I am an actor and voiceover artist, and I think I always wanted to do this since I was a little kid. I liked performing. I actually, my favorite thing when I was a kid was singing, and I actually trained in musical theater. That's what I thought I was going to do.
Okay.
I thought I was going to stand on stage and sing at people, but I thankfully, I think. Very, very early in my career, I found voiceovers,
Okay.
and I started working for a TV channel, doing their talking in between programs and things like that. And I was terrible. I sucked, and I refused to be terrible. I said to myself, nope. So I started sort of focusing in on what made people good, and listening to the things that they did, and trying to copy, trying to emulate, and then try to bring a sort of technique into it. And I guess it worked because suddenly I started getting a lot of voiceover work, and then I started working in animation. One of my first sort of animation jobs was in Bob the Builder. I was the little digger Scoop. And then from there I started doing games, and my first big game was one called Battlefield Bad Company 1 and 2, and I went straight into the lead for that. So I played Preston, who you sort of play. And at the same time, I sort of started moving away from musical theater and into screen acting. So I actually got to my first big film. I got to go to India. I got to go to Chandigarh, and and I got to do a film called Zero Dark 30, which is a film about the hunt for Bin Laden.
Yes.
And that was an amazing experience. I only got to spend a few days in your amazing country, but I sort of fell in love with working on screen then as well. Came back to the UK, started doing film and TV, and then bit by bit, we saw how the game world was sort of taking over the film world. We saw that there was just more and more game work available, and I loved it. I sort of moved. I really, really pushed my voiceover agent to have me audition for more and more games, and as the games started stepping away from just being very small lines into actual almost filmic experiences. I was very, very lucky to be sort of caught up in that wave. So now I'm one of those people who, I remember my teacher saying, you can only choose one thing. I do everything. I act. I do game acting. I'm in cartoons, animation, and I also sing jingles. So I still get to sing. So I do jingles on cartoons and on commercials and stuff. So yeah, I have. I'm
Which
very,
one?
very
Which
lucky.
one do you enjoy more? Which one do you enjoy more? Being a mercenary or being a cartoon character?
Oh man, I think that, like, when it comes to me as a human being, I'm very, very much sort of smell the roses and be nice to people. But we've all got to get a little bit of aggression out and stuff. And the stuff that I get to do with my crazy angry characters, it's better than therapy. I get to scream, I get to
So
shout,
true.
I get to just go absolutely ham, and I love it. So I don't think I can choose between my babies, but what I
Hmm.
will say is that it's much easier to just jump into the booth and do a game character because I don't have to go into makeup. I don't have to learn my lines because most of the lines that we only get on the day. Um, and you go in and
Hmm.
you read it and then you make it your own. So I think that sort of easy access makes games easy access. Excuse me for making light of it. Just the fact that I can go from being me to being the character very, very quickly. While doing film and
Hmm.
TV, it takes a while. It takes, I have to audition. I have to learn the lines. I have to go and talk to the director and make sure that that I'm not stepping on any toes with my co-actors. So the challenges are completely different. But in my day to day, I get to say that I am a voice actor. But overall, I'm just an actor.
True, true that. But tell me something. When it comes to the freedom, right?
Yeah.
The freedom to play with your character, to play with your lines. What sort of freedom do you get while playing a character in a video game versus, in a movie or animation film?
Um. In both, we have to. There's a term. It's called honoring the text. It was
Okay.
so my dialogue was written specifically by a writer, vetted by a director and a producer, and I can't go in there and then start changing it because I feel like it. Some
Hmm.
stars can, and they're usually the stars that are they're the ones who sort of them as the star, and therefore
Yeah.
they get to make the part fit them. I have to fit the part. So if there's something that I see where I go, this doesn't fit in my mouth, or this is not something. Sometimes it'll be that a script was written by somebody in the UK and it's for an American part, or uh, or somebody with an amazing command of English, but they've just slightly
Right.
changed something around. I get to say, hey, do you mind if I give you an option? And
Hmm.
then we can go from there. But my job isn't to go in there and sort of throw my weight around and change things. Um, so I hope I haven't given that impression because a lot of people would smack me. Uh,
No, no, not at all.
but yeah, that's pretty much it. We Our jobs as actors is to make the text come alive and not change the text for sure. But
Hmm.
but what happens is that in certain games, and we can talk about this in regards to Valorant later, um, you when they in TV shows and on games where they get to know you over a certain amount of time, they start kind of writing the character with you in mind. So
Okay.
therefore,
Hmm.
starts sounding more and more like you. And bit by bit you can see that the kind of influence that you as a human being has made on the character, be it a chicken in space or a crazy crazy Swedish mercenary with titanium arms.
True, true that, and there's a theory in the Valorant community in India that when they look at you, right, when they look at Breach, and when they listen to, like, most of us, we didn't know about you before watching Breach and looking, and then looking at the movies that you have done and the
Yeah.
different characters that you have played. So when we heard Breach, right, when we saw the character in game and we heard him, the first thing that came to our mind was the guy who's the dude who's doing this, who's the voice behind Breach. He's gonna be like a buff dude and he's gonna look like a mercenary. And and trust me, when people actually found you on the internet, they started looking at your pictures and all. They said, "Yes, that's a mercenary rub right there." So I guess that's a
Well,
that ties up with what you're saying,
thank you.
right?
Interesting. The being a Viking, since I'm from Scandinavia, there's one thing that I can't do, and that is I cannot grow a beautiful beard, unlike you. I can just grow a goatee. That's pretty much it.
Mm.
But I can tell you a little story about how I got this job because it's it's voice based, but this uh, the guys at Riot didn't really know me. I had done some other stuff for them. I didn't realize it at the time, but
Okay.
because everything is so confidential in the games world,
Mm.
you only find out what the game's called when it's released. And So anyway, my acting agent got in touch with me and said, "Hey, there's this game that's being developed, and they're looking for a Scandinavian, and we think he's Swedish. Would you do an audition?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So I, when I get things from my acting agent, it means that I have to do a self tape. So I pretty much like this. You'll maybe see a little bit more of me, but
Okay.
and I have to do stuff on camera. And of course, it was all of these crazy lines. And I was like, this is crazy. Okay, I guess I'll just have to scream while a camera's in my face. And I go quite red very easily when I'm screaming and when I'm getting excited.
Hmm.
So I was like, fine. So I recorded this and I sent it off. And then a couple of days later, my agent said, we're gonna have to pass this to your voiceover agent because this isn't on screen." And I
Okay.
was so embarrassed because, of course, now they'd seen, like, they'd been listening to all these tapes from people, and then they're like, "There's a video?" And then there's me going, going absolutely nuts. So I get a call saying they really liked you, and I went in and I got to meet the amazing team from Riot, and the Valorant team who came over to London,
Okay.
and they came in and they went, "Do you know what? It was just so refreshing to have somebody scream at us and we could see their face." And we started seeing Breach in you. And I was
Mm.
like, "Okay, well, yeah, I meant to do that." But yeah, I was not supposed to do anything in vision, as we call it, on video for
Mhm.
them. It was just supposed to be my voice. But maybe the fact that I look a little bit like him, my voice sits a little bit higher than him. My voice is, because I also play 13-year-old kids and chickens and stuff like that on cartoons. So
Mhm.
I bring my voice quite far up and I bring it far down. So I found him there, and then what happened was that we got to play. I got to go into the studio, and then they were like, "Okay, all right." And this is what happened. Speaking of sort of making the lines your own, they said, "We want you to put your own
Mhm.
stamp on this." So for
Okay.
Valorant, I actually, and when it was called Project A at the time, and
Mhm.
I bit by bit sort of started getting more and more brave as to what I did, and I did this like weird laugh at the end of a line, and they were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
oh," and now that's in the game, and yeah, I had an absolute blast in the studio, and I think that kind of comes across in the game, and that's what I like
True.
about Breach, because sort of he kind of eats life.
Yeah.
He's not had the greatest background, which I can't really talk about because that is part of the game. But as the game develops, but I think he sort of made the most of it, and I got to be part of it.
And tell me something. We keep hearing new dialogues from Breach every time. Every time there's a new patch
Yeah.
or there's some sort of a new release, we keep hearing new lines. So, are these lines recorded like prior to the game's release, everything in one go, or you keep getting things to be done on a regular basis?
No, I went in. I went in just before we hit the icebox, and um, they sort of sat me down and said, you know, we're sort of moving on, and what we want is we want more and more of these characters to start sneaking in. And of course, also
Yeah.
as players, I'm guessing sometimes you get a little bit bored by hearing our characters emote the same things all the time. So
Yeah.
they know
Yeah.
exactly what they're doing. They want you to be going through, and then, you know, something happens, and then you hear something new, and you're like, "Oh my god!" And that's the reaction they want. So, and of course, I get to say all these amazing things, and then of course, somebody manages to go in and find the code, and then they download all the lines that we do.
Hmm.
But yeah, so there's before Christmas, I went in and recorded some new stuff, and it's really fun. It's really fun.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, yeah, that's so true. When you hear your favorite characters say the lines over and over again, after a while, you need some refreshing lines, or maybe something new that
Yeah,
they can listen to, right? Otherwise, it becomes a very monotonous way of playing your character, where after every kill, you're saying the same thing.
absolutely.
Or so that's interesting, because I remember when we spoke in this December, you were busy. You told me that till Christmas you're packed up with
Yeah.
work. So so whenever these new maps and all they come up, so what is the process like? Do you like see the map? You try to figure out where and what you would say, like while your character is moving in that map. How does that work for you?
Well, what I can say is that uh, the world of games is quite extreme. Development is
Mm.
insane.
Hmm.
There are so many people working so hard, and you see that with all the patches, because what happens is that no matter how hard uh, they can test the code, and how hard they can QC quality control it, when it comes out and gamers play the game as they want to play it, suddenly things will happen. And
True.
so what it is that what I know is that that while I get these lines through that they've decided on,
Hmm.
they're desperately coding. There's guys in their basements. There's girls in. Hopefully they think more about sunlight than the guys that for some reason feel like they have to put their PCs downstairs. Um, and I know that Riot has a great team of loads of people, wonderful people, but
Yeah.
they um they I'm pretty sure that they didn't have everything ready to go to show me. They had a few pictures. So,
Hmm.
and that's the case also when I started voicing Breach. I got to see a 2D render of
Okay.
Breach, and he also didn't have his final outfit and his final colors. So I get to see this person very much it's a WIP, work in progress,
Hmm.
and that is something that we're just very much used to. That's why when I get to see a character, there's certain cues that I have to follow, like what um how big is their mouth, how big are their eyes, how big are their ears, all these things, because it sounds really weird. If a character has very small ears and a very big mouth, it usually means that they're loud. It usually means that this is more animation than game, but there's
Okay.
certain ways that
Hmm.
animators will draw a character. Um, and when you see a guy with like massive muscles and, you know, pronounced jaws,
Hmm.
they will most likely be people who don't really like to listen to someone giving them orders. And there's certain cues that you get when you
Hmm.
see these little photos and these renders, and that's what helps you then figure out what the character is going to sound like. Um, and that's what I have to
Okay.
do. So it's a very long-winded answer, but
Hmm.
when I go in, things usually aren't ready to go. I am as much as much part of the process as someone coding, as somebody making sure that the lighting is
Hmm.
correct, as somebody who's making sure that all the colors are correct, all that kind of stuff, and
Right.
then it all sort of comes together as this amazing cake.
It is. It is a delicious cake for sure. Especially for everyone, I guess. I mean, trust me, I've been a Counter Strike player for ever
Okay.
since I was in college. Yeah. So back in the days of Counter Strike 1.6, we used to play that game. And after playing it for like almost 10 years, I would say, you come to a point where you want something new, something like
Yep.
different that you can play. And Valorant, I guess, was the kind of fresh breeze that we really wanted in the community. And that's how you see so many like pro players even switching from this Counter Strike to Valorant. So that itself shows, I guess, the kind of popularity that the game has made across the world. And trust me, that's like 50% of that work has been done by voice actors like you. Because if your voice is not there, then the character is not alive for sure.
Thank you so much for saying that. Uh, I uh, I mean, we are narcissists, the people who are the voices and the actors and stuff like that. So we love hearing stuff like that. But we know how unsung the heroes are of making the games. So I will say, in response to that, we are nothing without the massive teams of overworked
Yeah.
coders and writers and et cetera, because they they're focused on one thing that you might not even see.
Hmm.
And if it's one thing that my job is to make sure that what I do gets noticed.
True. And whatever they have visioned as for that player should come out.
Exactly,
Exactly.
exactly. But I love it. I love it because I I didn't I had I did not have a relationship to this game for as
Hmm.
long as everybody else who worked on it. Because my job is to go in, say the words, and leave. And
Hmm.
it's a really strange thing because this is their baby. And what
Yeah.
happens is when it gets delivered, it kind of becomes mine as well. And
True.
that's something that I love. It's because it's like, okay, well, if I can be part of showing how much I enjoyed it and how much I can engage with the teams that play and so on, that's part of my job, and
Yeah.
hence why I'm talking to you. Um, but
True.
but man, if you can get one of the Riot devs
Hmm.
on your show, they'll tell you how small of a cog we are as actors in it. But
No, no, that's really a good idea because I'll definitely get in touch with Riot and see if any of their devs would love to come on board, because that's also the side of story that we need to hear, right? Because
yeah,
that's how. Yeah. So it's interesting. I'll definitely look into that and try to get somebody from Riot as well. But tell me something. You said your job is to go in, do your lines, come out. So during these time, did you get a chance to meet the other guys as well, like Carolina, other guys, Shannon?
no. So I the issue with the world of games is that the the confidentiality is ridiculous.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
I have to sign these super tight NDAs, and part of what happens is that when we go into a studio, the game it has a code word, and for the
Okay.
most part, I won't get to see another person from my game because they'll have left by the time I come in.
Okay.
And it is very difficult to do dialogue in a game because when the AI takes over, it's it's not about the two of us having a conversation. It's about that line getting patched together, and then the algorithm sort of figures out how to do it. So for certain very story based games, absolutely bring the actors in, have them work together.
Yeah.
Same thing with
Hmm.
with animation, but for the most part, we're stuck in there by ourselves. We don't even know who else is on it, and unless of course there's a celebrity involved, that's part of the marketing for it. So I
Yeah.
um so therefore, like for example, I didn't know that I knew one of the actors, the guy playing Sova. We've worked together
Hmm.
before.
All
So
right.
so there's and then you're like, oh wow, hey, and that happens all the time on games where
Mm.
you know when I found out, you know, when Assassin's Creed was released, I got to I posted about it because then we're allowed to post about it. We're not allowed to say anything until we ask permission and they can say yes. And then my friends were like, "Hey, oh my God, we have scenes together," and
Yeah.
you know that's when you get to work together on that. And then you know a couple of days later, you find out that your character is the most hated character in the
Oh.
entire game. Dag is so hated. So in case any of your listeners are yes, I am Dag. I well no spoilers here, but people really, really, really dislike him, and I love
Hmm.
it. So, but once again, long-winded answer. But my job, once again, go in, do the job, and then afterwards, I start talking to my fellow actors. So, for example, I've uh, I've been on Carolina Ravasa's Twitch show.
Yeah.
You know, I'm starting to get contact with the other actors, and then hopefully, when the world opens up again, we'll get to go and do some cons and stuff, and that's when we'll get to know each other.
True that. And, during my conversation with Carolina, we also spoke about this opportunity of, you guys coming to the Comic Con or the Game Con here in India. So,
Would love it.
yeah, I'm trying to get in touch with the organizers and see, if everything works out. I don't know if this year anything's gonna happen, but definitely if not this year, then next year for sure. Like,
Come on, roll on vaccines. Come on, we can do this.
true that we need that actually. But I
We
mean,
do.
I got in touch with Aaron, by the way.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So Aaron would definitely be on the show soon.
Fantastic.
So
He's a really lovely guy. You'll like him.
yeah, I spoke with him. Yeah, he is very sweet guy. So you know each other for how long now? You and Aaron.
We did a couple of jobs together a couple of years ago. We found out that we were both in a show called McMafia, which was a BBC TV series that
Okay.
I don't know which channel it was on in India actually, but it was an AMC BBC co-production, and we were both in it. We
Okay.
were both bad guys.
Oh,
In
okay.
that, yeah, responsible for some deaths. You know, the usual.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and then we did some voice gigs together as well. And I think this was his first game, so not a bad first go. I gotta say.
No, yeah, he's also a pretty famous guy in India when it comes to the player because I guess Sova has been picked up by almost every pro player across the world. So that character Sova is pretty much he's 100% pick across all pro players. So
Right,
that's how a lot of people are interested in Aaron as well. So I
right,
keep looking at the Reddit and other places on social media. So everybody is talking about Valorant, who's the player right now that they are playing. So you'll come up and see that Sova is someone who is picked up on a regular basis. So, but that's the whole point, right? That's the whole point because earlier, like if you look at 10 years back or 12 years back, nobody really knew the voices behind the characters.
yeah,
Right, and this is what is changing in the world right now. And now, we get to see, we get to meet, we get to interact with people who are actually the reason behind the voice, behind the character, behind the nuances that they create in the game. Whatever it be, like if Dag is hated, that's the motive of that character. That's
yeah.
the reason behind making that character. So I think you did a great job if people are hating you for that.
So do I. I love it. And do you know what? The fact that people are starting to get to know us as actors behind the characters, and that's purely. I really do say this is purely down to the fandom, down to the people playing and people being interested in who we are, and then also getting excited when they start hearing our voices and other stuff,
Yeah.
because I don't think uh, that it was something that the games companies and producers really thought that would be something interesting, because because the games were the little brother to the film industry, and it wasn't very often that famous actors would be involved
Yeah.
in them. And then
Mm.
recently, you can tell now, you know, Mark Strong, Gary Oldman, uh, the list goes on. People understand how influential being in a game is, and
Yes. True.
I have a feeling that in the next couple of years, sort of the working actors like me, we might be asked to step a little bit more into the background,
Mm.
because into smaller characters, because they will be able to just offer this to very, very famous, very well respected actors, that people know, because they see that it really does have, um, it's such an impact on people when they can say, oh yeah, well, we have, look, Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk.
Yeah. Cyberpunk. Yeah.
They got him to sell the game. They brought him
True.
to, I forget, where was it, was it E20 2019 or something like that, and he,
I guess. Yes.
yeah, and he, that's it, and he was on stage talking, and he sold the game. He's not,
True.
he's not in every single scene, but they understood how important, somebody like that is. And but then at the same time, I hope I get to do this forever, so I hope that my fears don't come true.
No, I don't. I don't think so, because see, I guess this is true for every industry, every platform. I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, earlier, if you look at YouTube, right? Earlier it was just individual creators who were making their shows, making their YouTube channels, and then celebrities, they realized that that's where the audience is, and there's a lot of money that they can make
yeah,
on YouTube as well. So now you have Will Smith, you have all the celebrities having their own YouTube channel, and they have millions of followers. But I don't think so that being on these platforms would take anything away from the independent creator. So
exactly.
I don't think so. Your fear. I mean, yes, it's gonna be more competitive when it comes to maybe taking the lead role. Maybe that would become
Absolutely.
competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sure I know you get to do this throughout your life for sure.
Exactly. And now as the technology becomes available, and it becomes relatively easier to actually make these games. I say
Hmm.
relatively because I understand how difficult it is to put a game together. More of the indie developers, more of
Yeah,
the people who are sort of the 1 or 5 or 10 man bands, 10 or man or woman bands, they get to actually make something, and then they can call someone like me, and they can say, hey, we uh, it's just us, can you do this from home in your booth? And
yeah,
if it feels right, and if they've done the due diligence, like, I understand that some people are like, yeah, it's a stick figure jumping from one side to another, and we want you to scream.
mm,
I've had that. And sometimes you go, yeah, but I just don't want to. I want to be part of something that's good. And if it's good, and it sort of, a fire starts in my heart, then I'll work with anyone. That's the important thing.
yeah,
And we
yeah,
understand it. I had this booth built during lockdown here in London because of the fact that I want to continue working, and I was lucky to. I finished Assassin's Creed under a blanket in the
yeah.
hallway
Yeah,
of
you
my
told
of
me
my
about it.
house, because of this. I was lucky that by the time we had to do more lines for Valorant, I was able to go into the studio that was open at the time. We just slipped in, but at the same time, now I can do this from here.
True.
I've screamed in here.
Yeah, I guess you're absolutely right with the easy access to technology, I would say. And you have musicians making sick beats in their living room. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the technology, and you don't need a big label to sign you for releasing your music now. You
exactly.
know, so I guess that's what the real power of internet is. If people like you and I can share our voice without having to have like a big production under us, to fuel our work. I guess that's what in real sense, that's what a true independent creator is like, if you have to talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Perfect.
and
That's
power
that's
to
good.
them. And I love the fact that somebody, uh, you know, is it like The Last of Us, which was
Hmm.
the game of lockdown, was a
Yeah.
tiny, a tiny group of guys and girls, I think. I'm not sure. But people, a tiny group of people who put this out, and then they had a chance to make a lot of money on it, and they went, no, we want to fix the game and make it as awesome as possible before we go to the next stage, because it was their baby, and they're like, nope, this is ours. We can make more money on this later on. Let's fix it. Let's make
Yeah.
this the best game possible. And you're like, see, those are the types of people I want to work with, because they're awesome.
True, true, so true. David, you have worked with Tom Hanks. You have worked with some big titles under you. Any advice that you would like to give to upcoming actors out there who would like to make their career in acting or voiceovers?
Um, I guess, listen, this is a really, really strange time around the world, and we all have to sit there with our own thoughts, and we all have to. Most of us are feeling like we're missing out because because it feels like the world is continuing without us, but it's actually not the case. Everything is slowed down. Everything is locked down. It's very, very difficult to get work made at the moment. But
Yeah,
saying that, what I know um, is that drive is the important thing. Drive and a healthy amount of fear, because if you don't feel a little bit of fear, if you don't feel a little bit of a like a clench in the chest when you get an opportunity to do something, or when you are trying something new,
hmm,
then it's safe. Because I'll step us to the side a little bit here. People during lockdown have said, well, you should work on your hobbies. And my thing with that is, why do you want? You should work on a new hobby, is what they said. Why do you want to start something where you're gonna suck at it? You're gonna suck at it
hmm.
for a very, very long time, and then you might get good at it, and it's just going to be your hobby. So what I've been saying to sort of people who've been starting out is that, well, do you know what? Invest in yourself. Invest in making yourself better. Um, there are so many free resources out there for us now. YouTube is amazing. There's other websites where you can, the masterclass series. I know that it's expensive,
Yeah,
but you are getting to listen to the best people in the business, and people are willing to give really, really good advice. And a lot of times it's completely for free, because it was part of an interview like I'm doing with you now. um, but investing in yourself doesn't just mean work. It also means self-care. It means making sure that you know what your worth is, making sure that you're not doing things for free and for exposure necessarily, um,
yeah,
all the time. Pick and choose. Make sure you understand how far you're willing to go, because
hmm,
if you don't have the self-respect to say no, which is one of the most powerful words in the world, because it means that you saying no to someone else usually means that you've said yes to yourself or someone else. It is so important to make sure that you know what you're worth and what you can bring. And then when you do get the opportunity, the fear and that kind of worry that you are going to suck, that is part of the process.
Yeah.
It seriously, it never goes away. That worry that we're not good enough and that we're not going to be able to push enough. It's always going to be there. And unfortunately, nowadays we have so many things that can distract us. We have our
Mm.
computers, we have our phones, we can listen to, podcasts and uh, podcasts, and we can listen to music, and we can always step away from the thing that we're trying to focus on. So if you're going to do that, then task it. Make sure that you set yourself
Yeah.
schedules. Make sure that you have a group of people around you that can hold you to account. So if you say, I'm going to write something, I have friends who
Hmm.
said, I'm going to write an episode of a show that I've been working on for a long time. What we've been saying is, fine, we'll have a read through in 3 weeks. We'll see you in 3 weeks. And that, and when we get to this, they're only going to really work on it that final week. We all know how our
Yeah.
brains work, but we made them do it. And I have some friends who have now written some amazing things
Mm.
because it's all about making sure that you are that you're doing the thing that you want to do, that
Yeah.
you are, and that you have people there who can say, are you staying on track?
Mm.
Because I'll shut up in a moment, but the problem with doing something creative is that most of it is down to you alone, and it is very, very lonely.
True. True. But then you need that support system as well, right? Your friends and your loved ones who can push you like the way you pushed your friend, right? To
Exactly.
at least achieve something within a deadline. Otherwise, the things we procrastinate a lot.
Yes. Yes. And we need those friends and colleagues can make us who can make us feel better when we're feeling down, and who can also call us to account when we're being a little
Mm.
bit too when our ego is a little bit too
Yeah.
fresh and flashy. um,
Mm.
Keeping grounded and so on. I mean, this all sounds a little bit like a self help book, but there's a reason why self help books work. Because you just need to be reminded to keep working and also to take care of yourself, and that is two things that are really difficult right now.
True.
We're all
True.
eating too
But then I
much.
guess, yeah, we're eating too much. That's for sure.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, 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 that's fine. What I was saying was that at the end of the day, it all depends on, like, the self-help book will only work if you want it to work. If you put in those efforts and that time, that hustle into what you really want to achieve.
Yeah,
Unless and until you do that, then you can always dream about things, but nothing's gonna happen.
absolutely. That is true. And one thing that I've had to sort of tell my friends during this past year is that although I post a lot of fun things on Instagram and on Twitter and about the stuff that's happened in my career, they have to keep in mind that that's stuff that I was working on pretty much before lockdown anyway. I
Yeah.
and that part of the job that I do, part of the contract is that I have to advertise it. I have to let people know that I'm in it, that I'm doing it. And so I understand that it can feel really annoying when you go on a feed and you see people bragging about the stuff that they're doing.
Hmm.
Keep in mind that the bragging is one day and the work is a year, 2 years, 5 years. It's all in
True.
the making.
So true. It's like, what you see is the tip of the iceberg.
Always,
True
always.
that. True that. Perfect. So, David, it's time to take a few questions from the Valorant community.
Okay.
So what I did was, when we spoke in December, I got in touch with the Valorant community, got in touch with the players who play, and I asked them, that David is gonna be on the show, and if you have any questions for Breach, shoot, and I'm gonna ask him a few of these questions. So I have them written down. So I'll just start with the first
Let's
question.
do it.
Okay, so this comes in from the player named Iceman. Okay, so he
Hey,
asks
man.
that you have played a lot of mercenaries in games. Do you have any military experience in real life too?
Oh man, this is so funny. My brother, my brother was a NATO liaison. He was he was a captain acting major in the Norwegian
Okay.
military.
Mm-hmm.
He well respected, you know, also the nicest guy in the world, but he would joke about the fact that if I messed with him, he could kill me in my sleep. And then the fact that this guy gets to play CIA, mercenaries, military men all the time. Um, it is embarrassing, and also it also makes me very very happy because some of my ranks have been much better than his ranks in real life. So it's fun. So unfortunately, no, I don't have. Norway used to have a compulsory basic service,
Okay.
but I was actually released from that because I was in the States at the time.
Hmm.
I was studying to be an actor, and I pretty much said to them, "I think my brother's done enough for the country," and they went, "Yeah, fine, all right, fine." So, so
Oh,
no,
that's
no, I am, I'm for the most part, a lover, not a fighter.
okay. All right. I hope that answers your question, Iceman. Moving on to the next question. This comes in from 007 Bond. Okay.
Oh,
So,
Mr. Bond.
Mr. Bond asks, how do you prep yourself for intense and aggressive voice lines?
A lot of liquid. Warming up the voice is definitely important. Um, Technique is really important because what people don't realize is that when we do lines that are there's something called a call to action line where it's like, "Are
Okay.
you with me?" That kind of stuff. What we do is that we do that one line probably 3 times in different ways,
Okay.
and then we have about another 99 lines like that, and I
Oh,
will
okay.
do those one after the other. The other thing that happens is that they don't want it to sound safe because safe sounds fake. So therefore they want it done in a way that almost, when you're on the battlefield and you're screaming your guts out, you're not worried about protecting your voice. Well, I have to. So I've had to learn lots of techniques to take care of my voice. So it's like things like you know, raising my larynx, making sure that I have an open, as open a throat as possible when I'm doing this kind of stuff.
Okay.
And for the most part, a lot of like the characters that I play are they're down here and they're always talking like this. Um, but what happens, thankfully, is that when people scream, they do go up a
Hmm.
little bit in their voice, and you just have to make sure that you are doing it safely, that you are taking the time to prepare your voice for what it's going to do, and then when you're done, you do you warm up and you cool down, and that's so. What I was going to say is like people who do these types of lines usually have a lot of training and a lot of times are singers
Hmm.
because a singer knows
Interesting.
how their voice works. Um, and I won't lie, there have been days when I have done way, way, way too much, and I need a couple of days to recover. But for the most part,
Hmm.
I'll be doing a screaming line one day, and then I'll be in playing a kid having a tantrum the next day in a cartoon. So
Hmm.
I really, really have to take care of my voice. And
True, true.
don't go to banging nightclubs the night before you do a recording because y'all have been screaming in someone's ear like this all night, and that will screw your voice up.
True that. This gives me an idea. Why don't we do this? Okay. So Bond has asked us, how you prep yourself, and you've given him
Yes.
an answer. So let's do one thing, okay? So Bond, listen to this. David, why don't you ask Bond to do one of your favorite lines from Breach? So you do it, and we'll ask Bond to mimic that and tag you on Instagram.
Okay. All right. Fine. Let's see. Should we do? We'll do one low line and one shouted line. So how about enemy spotted and the iconic let's go. Right. So I'm gonna turn myself down a little bit.
Yeah.
So here we go. Right. Enemy spotted. Enemy spotted. Not too bad. And then let's go.
Wow.
How was that on the levels? Was that too much?
No, this was perfect. Nothing
Excellent.
clipped. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So, and what I did before I started talking to you was because I knew you were probably going to ask me to do something like this, I made sure to warm up my voice, and I'm sipping a lovely cup of ginger tea here. So I'm taking care of myself. But that's the kind of stuff that I do. I try to stay as relaxed as possible, and I try to, and then I'm a really loud guy too. Keep that in mind. So, Mr. Bond, I hope that you are a very loud guy too.
All right. So you have your homework with you now, 007. Let's see if you can pull this off. So whenever this episode goes live, a Bond, you have 24 hours to comply.
Absolutely, and you've got to
Okay.
tag me at David Menkin.
Yes. Tag him, tag us on Instagram, and then we'll see if David liked what you did.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Moving on to our next question. This comes in with from Mr. Peanut Butter. Okay. Mr. Peanut Butter goes. Do you follow the Valorant pro scenes, and who's your favorite team right now?
I will tell you the truth. I do not, because it is a little bit when you don't play it yourself. And I
Mhm.
don't at the moment. I'm on a MacBook Air from 2015, which is going to change, I promise. My nephew had me play Valorant with him and just called me noob for about 45 minutes until I rage quit. So I don't know what's going on, but it is something that I need to make my homework, because of course there's some amazing stuff happening.
Yeah, it is.
So
It's true.
so once again, maybe how about you let me know either on Twitter or on Insta who I should be following, so that I know what's going on.
Perfect. So that's another homework for Mr. Peanut
Mr.
Butter.
Peanut Butter.
Yeah. So do tag us, do tag David on Instagram or Twitter, and tell him which pro team he should follow, and we'll take it up from there. Next question, David, comes from the player named Death. He asks, "How is Breach in real life?"
Breach in real life is I mean, I can't. I want. There's so many things I want to say about Breach, but the thing is that I just know that the writers at Riot would be like, "Oh, really, really?" Um. So Breach has a backstory, but what I can say about Breach is that he has a very dark sense of humor. He
Mhm.
flirts with everybody. Um. Take from that what you will. But what he does is that he will give a compliment and also follow it up with some shade very, very quickly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so, I mean, he's just. I have a feeling that he leaves his anger on the field, and then he
Mhm.
goes home. I think he has. I think he has plants. Don't you? Like some bonsai or something. He
Yeah.
gets his special. He gets his special pincers onto his massive
Hmm.
arms, and then gets to work. And he finds his zen moment. I do think that Breach definitely has found his zen when it's needed.
Hmm. And what about David and Breach? David versus Breach.
David, I same thing with me. I during lockdown, I started working on the plants on my balcony. I'm very proud of
Hmm.
them. They're very pretty, and I have herbs or herbs wherever you're from that I put in my food now, and I've started doing yoga. Who am I? What is wrong with me? But so yeah, I am. And as I said like the thing about me is that I get to go and scream and shout in a room, and get all of my frustrations out, and then I can be happy and I can support my friends and I can uh, hopefully be a good person. Um, but slightly probably. I mean, I probably have a shorter rap sheet with the police than Breach does. So let's leave it there.
All right. I hope you got your answer, Death. Okay, so last question. We'll take one more question for David. This question comes in from the player named Sleek, and he asks you, if not Breach, then which player would you love to play from Valorant?
Is it a is it a cliche if I say? I mean, let me think here. We've got Phoenix for sure, and I just I think that is it hold on. I'm going to have a look. I'm going to have a look because yeah, it is definitely. Um, I think Omen because he's
Hmm.
just so emo.
Yeah.
He's so wrapped up in his feelings, even though he's you can punch through him. But yeah, no, Phoenix is he's just so cool.
He is.
What
Yeah.
about
He
you?
has his own swagger.
I've forgotten to ask who you play. Who do you main?
Oh, so my main is Phoenix.
Okay,
Yeah, and my second is Breach,
very good taste.
because I I,
Yeah.
I I I love flashes. So
Well, yes, yes. Well, tuck tuck. Yeah.
uh, perfect. So thank you so much, guys, for sending all these questions to us. We have taken a few questions. I'll definitely ask David to answer a few more questions over on Twitter or Instagram. I'll
Yeah,
share the
sure.
questions with him later on. And so, David, before we wrap up the episode, and any upcoming projects or movies that you're working on that you would like to share with our audience?
Um, I have um unfortunately I can't tell you, but I've got a very, very exciting game coming out this year. Um,
All right.
and then I've got another very, very exciting game coming out next year.
But is it to do with video games, or is it to do
Yeah,
with
those are
movies?
those are video games, yes. Uh,
All right.
and they're freaking awesome. And people are gonna have opinions, and it's gonna be great. And I'm not allowed to say anything, and it's so annoying. I know it's so annoying to listen to me say that I've got something great coming up, but I promise. I also am in half a season of a show called The Syndicate for the BBC, which is going to come out in March here in the UK, so probably a little bit later in the year around the world. And other than that, it's unfortunately been that was the only production that managed because we managed to go to
Mhm.
another country that didn't have lockdown. But for the most part, it's games and cartoons. Um, I I don't know if Space Chickens in Space has arrived in India. It's hilarious. It's nuts. I play a chicken called Chuck who thinks that he's
Mhm.
I think Jack Nicholson, but in
Okay.
fact he's not. He's just really scared and hilarious. But for the most part, um, there's definitely there's stuff in the pipeline, and just keep an eye on my Twitter or my Instagram. I do post whenever I get to say something fun. But unfortunately, everything is NDA'd at the moment. It's just ridiculous.
I know.
So
So true, so true. So, guys, definitely go and check out David Menkin on Twitter and Instagram. We will be linking down all the links in the show notes below on the episode and also on sociallydesi.com/podcast. So, don't forget to check that out. We'll be sharing a lot of details there, and definitely we'll try to get David here again to speak a lot more about the world of voiceovers and acting and whatever new projects he's working on. So, David, let's do some breach lines to end the episode, right? I mean,
okay.
something that our audience can enjoy before they before we wrap up the episode.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll start with if you're not getting shot at, you're doing something wrong. Oh yeah, there's the adrenaline. You're pathetic. And then let's do it. Let's do a loud one to end it.
Yeah.
Off your feet!
Wow, love that, love that. Thank you so much, David. Thank you for being on the Socially Desi show. We would love to have you again.
I don't know, anytime. I had a great time with you.
Thank you.